I understand. It feels like Sanguinius is like the strongest of those currently in the palace. He just got constantly fought, constantly. They wore him down.
He casts it back to the ground with a cry of effort. And the force of a meteor hits him in the chest, throwing him down, pinning him to the warp-stained ground.
He just played on Angron. Shouldn't I be reacting to the new, some more of that, Warhammer?
Sanguinius Part 2 is also ready if you wanna do that instead. Put in the timestamps this time, so should be easier.
Part 2. Alright, we'll watch this. We'll get the Warhammer stuff done, and then we will...
I'll never know. For at that moment, the pilot made his existence known over the ship's internal Vox speakers.
Captain, we have cleared the storm and will be landing at the designated coordinates in 3 minutes and 26 seconds.
The Stormbird ceased shuddering as it broke through the cloud cover and leveled out. Kassir strode impatiently towards the rear deployment hatch, calling for a final weapons check. A glimmer of amusement flickered in Vakaras's icy blue eyes. Behind my visor, I licked my lips as I willed my rigid body to relax and my death grip on my chain axe to loosen.
Chain axe? I want a chain axe. Why is it the chain axe in the game? Damn it! Where is my chain claymore?
I yearned for battle with the same intensity as Kassir. And knowing no foes awaited us on the ground only caused my thwarted bloodlust to seethe in my veins with increased venom. Why had Ishida Asuros ordered the captains to assemble on the surface, when a fleet-wide broadcast or a hololithic conclave could have served the same purpose? I did not want to listen to some motivational speech as if I was a common Imperial Army foot soldier. I was a Space Marine of the 9th Legion. I wanted to rip and to tear.
Rip and tear!
I wanted to kill. I was a beast with the face of an angel, a blood drinker, an eater of the dead. My brethren and I warred across the most benighted battlefields of the Great Crusade, a legion of gore-stained revenants that would not relent or retreat until we had utterly destroyed everything that stood against us. Whereas Primarchs such as Rogel Dawn and Guilliman strove to build up an empire in accordance with the Emperor's grand vision, we left only corpse-choked charnel worlds in our wake. We were specters, haunting the wild regions at the Crusade's advance, a terror loosed by the Emperor to cut a path across the stars, our hearts possessed of an inescapable darkness that was driving us ever closer to the abyss of madness. There was no light, no hope, only an unremitting existence of carnage and death.
I'm guessing when Sanguinius came, he basically made them like one of the more upstanding units.
My lot. Mine was an uncelebrated and thankless duty, but I performed it gladly, caring nothing for the future consequences. For as long as blood needed to be spilled, I was contented. Tagar Pentorus, 5th planet of the Tagar system. A world of perpetual storms and tempestuous weather. And upon an open, muddy expanse of her rain-lashed hide, we assembled. The grim captains of the immortal 9th and their chosen warriors gathering together as one, heeding the summons of our Legion Master. No humans were present, for this was Astartes' business, and we were eager to...
Ooh, I like the background thunder noise.
...see it done. Upon Tagar we mustered, the blood-drenched angelic butchers of the Great Crusade, eagerly awaiting the system-wide slaughter we were about to partake in. Hundreds of crimson-clad legionaries, most with fresh blood ritualistically daubed upon their faces and armor, formed up before Ishidor Asuros' personal Stormhawk interceptor. Claws of lightning tore across the dark, roiling clouds above, though the torrential rainfall had abated for the moment. Thunder boomed like distant artillery. The Legion Master stood apart from his retinue, a striking figure of legend and regal barbarism, in his skull-bedecked artificer warplate. Unified at last, we waited beneath our wind-whipped banners, our insatiable blood hunger simmering just beneath the facade of our coldly serene features. Lightning flashed. Thunder rumbled. Ishida Asoros remained silent and still. He gave no order. He said nothing.
I'm guessing this is when Sanguinius walks out or something.
I swiftly came to realize that he too was waiting. Waiting for what? The assembly was complete. Each company captain was present and accounted for. Every able-bodied space marine of the 9th Legion was prepared for deployment. What else had to happen before? And that was when I heard it. The distinct engine growls of more stormbirds descending from orbit. Yet even as the sounds reached my ears, the hairs along the back of my neck stood on end, and I gritted my teeth as a sudden knot of apprehension twisted my stomachs. My secondary heart kicked in as my breathing grew shallow and rapid. Sweat beaded upon my brow and my muscles bunched and tensed beneath my armor.
You don't like that there's other ships landing now?
I did not understand what was happening, for I had not experienced such a deluge of conflicting emotions since my transformation into a space marine. I tore off my helmet and took a great gulp of rain-damp air. Catching the scent of Astarte's blood, I turned and saw Kassir had bitten clean through his lower lip in his agitation. Our distress only intensified as the stormbirds drew closer to our position.
Those aren't our ships!
A legionary somewhere behind me cried, and a second later, I saw that the approaching craft were liveried in bone white and bore the emblem of the 16th Legion. These transports belonged to the Lunar Wolves. The legionaries of Horus Lupercal himself were disrupting our assembly.
I was not briefed concerning this.
Kassir snarled in outrage, his anger quickly rising to the fore. A few captains began shouting questions at the Legion Master, demanding an explanation for the unannounced arrival of our uninvited cousins, even as the Stormbirds began their final approach. Ishida Asoros and his lieutenants marched from the shadow of the Interceptor, which then lifted off, ceding the landing ground to the Lunar Wolves' ships. Wordlessly, the Legion Master re-marshaled his warriors in front of the legionaries comprising the first rank, and together we watched as the Stormbirds set down one after another in perfect synchronized succession. Their assault ramps slammed down.
I don't know what's going on here. Is Sanguinius on their ship or something?
And in under a minute, a troop of 16th Legion Astartes stood arrayed before us, their faces obscured behind their crested helms, their polished bolt guns held in readiness across their chests, their alabaster power armor brightly lit by the sporadic flashes of lightning. The final Stormbird to land was festooned with storm-tattered Chthonian war pennants, and it seemed to my eyes that the entire vessel was enveloped in a nimbus of ethereal light. My whole body was trembling in anticipation by this point, and my jaws were clenched so tight my molars were in danger of cracking.
Is it Horus?
Lieutenant Vacaras whispered, and there was a tremor in his voice, akin to fear.
Has Horus Lupercal come?
The final ramp slammed down in a spray of mud. Two full squads of elite Justarin and Cataphracti pattern Terminator armor deployed in unison before separating and forming a processional walkway between their hulking bodies as they turned and faced one another. Kassir scoffed, for we were not men easily impressed by displays of pomp and ceremony, or by the strength of arms. Still, Ishida Asoros gave no order. My eyes were drawn to the top of the ramp and the gold-lit interior beyond. A lone figure now stood, silhouetted against the light where none had stood a second before. And by his stature, I knew him to be one of the Emperor's sons. The breath caught in the back of my throat. My twin heart stuttered within my chest. Veiled in a luminous solar radiance, the figure slowly descended from the bone-white stormbird. An expectant hush fell over all. When he reached the foot of the ramp, the Justaeran honor guards saluted him as one. He passed between them without a word,
So is
and
this
strode across
Sanguinius?
the narrow stretch of muddy earth that separated our forces from his. None of us moved or spoke. I was gripped by an indescribable dread such as a mortal man might experience, for I had never been in the presence of a Primarch. Even the raging storms that ruled Tagar were momentarily cowed. I waited. My brethren waited. The planet itself waited.
I
to
waited,
see
for
what
gosh
this living
sakes.
demigod of war would do. The golden aura cloaking the figure steadily dimmed, as if receding back into the burning core of his being. Time seemed to stand still. It was not Horus who stood before us. My heart stopped beating. Great white wings unfurled as the Primarch Sanguinius revealed himself in all his martial glory, and we beheld for the first time the beauty of his sublime form and the terrible majesty of his resplendent countenance. The light shone in the
I'm
darkness.
already in love.
My heart beat again, and nothing would ever be the same, for dawn had come. The sun had risen. The Archangel of Baal gazed upon the assembled commanders of the Revenant Legion, gazed upon a host of rough-cast killers and scarred blood drinkers that had been created in his image and likeness, gazed into the depths of the hunger and madness lurking within the black recesses of our hearts, and he opened his mouth, and he said, "My sons." I could have died then, upon hearing those two singular words.
This is when they first
Instead,
met
I started to
Sanguinius.
weep as joy pierced me. A joy more devastating than any sword blow. Joy that our Primarch progenitor had acknowledged us as his own. Joy that we had been united at last with the true Lord and Master of our Legion. Tears streaming unheeded down my face, I made ready to kneel alongside my brothers and offer our Gene-sire the adoration and devotion that was rightfully due. But the angel raised a clenched fist, halting us before we could act, and his next words smoked me to my innermost core. "No, you will not kneel to me. I do not command your obedience or your fealty. I do not demand your allegiance or your loyalty. Instead, I shall offer unto you my own, freely given and without reservation." And so saying, Sanguinius placed a gauntleted hand over his hearts and knelt in the mud before our assembly. A collective murmur of shock rippled through the ranks of the observing
He's
Lunar
kneeling
Wolf
to
legionaries.
us?
There are no words in all the tongues of men which can faithfully capture or describe the image of such a numinous being performing such an act of perfect humility. Our isolated companies had been held in disrepute and shunned for so long, had grown so accustomed to the scorn and mistrust of others, despite everything we had sacrificed for the sake of the new Imperium, that when our own Primarch knelt and pledged himself to us, we were all stricken with astonishment and dismay. A pained cry escaped Vacarus at the unbearable sight of the angel humbling himself in such a manner. Cassir groaned and hung his head like a chastised child. I shuddered in profound shame, suddenly disgusted by my gore-encrusted armor, and sickened by my barely restrained bloodthirst. It was as if I had become aware of what I truly was for the first time. I knew then I was utterly unworthy of my Gene-sire's loyalty and devotion, and that I would always be unworthy. It was Ishidar Asuros who delivered us. Steeling himself, the Legion Master stepped from the front ranks and approached the kneeling Primarch. Visibly shaken, he placed his hands reverently upon Sanguinius's golden pauldrons and looked him full in the face. On behalf of the captains of the 9th Legion, I accept your fealty and honor your allegiance, O son of the Emperor, beloved by all. Rise, Father, arise and lead us to glory and to victory. The scions of your blood stand ready for war. Sanguinius stood, and in that moment the heavens of Tagar opened and a torrent of rain hammered down upon us in a sheeting downpour that rattled off the Lunar Wolf's stormbirds and cleansed us from head to heel of the dried blood and gore fouling our faces and armor. The angel tilted back his head and closed his eyes as the rain washed over his face, a faint smile upon his lips. Then he gazed upon us once more and drew his ornate power sword, the master crafted blade in Carmine that was to shine at the forefront of many a great battle in the decades to come. The Primarch's voice rang out over the landing field and rose on the wind to challenge the rolling thunder.
Warriors of the 9th Legion, sons of wrath and blood, I have come to you from the deep desert and across the distant stars to take my place in my father's great crusade. Will you fight alongside me for the realization of the Emperor's dream and for the unification and betterment of all mankind?
We did not roar our assent at the top of our lungs as Space Marines from certain other legions might have done, for that was not our way. Instead,
We do not scream.
each legionary gripped his favored melee weapon and thrust it upwards into the stormy sky. A forest
We
of battalion
roar!
blades springing up and joining our Primarch's uplifted sword in a grand sweeping gesture of unity and brotherhood. I held my chain axe aloft, my heart swelling with pride and conviction as we broke formation and thronged about Sanguinius like enraptured children. The boldest among us reaching out to trace their armored fingertips along the angel's mighty pinions. The Lunar Wolves stamped their feet and clashed their bolt guns against their chest plates in a martial display of solidarity. Lightning flashed. Thunder rumbled. Our tears mingled with the pouring rain, and in my joy I embraced Captain Kassir, inwardly vowing to cherish him forevermore as my battle brother, and to cease coveting his rank as I had secretly done for so many years.
Bam.
For my legion had
Solidarity.
been made whole. My brethren had been made whole. I had been made whole.
The Ninth's first steps along the path of its gradual rebirth had been taken. Our Primarch, our father, had come to us at last. The light had shone in the darkness. Hope had dawned. The angel had descended.
Alright, now we watch the next one. There we go.
It was always with him, the vision. Once the most beloved brother Horus, taking his life. The nightmare always haunted Sanguinius, but its appearance had become more frequent. Dawn was right. All of them were symbols, and though he hated the role his father had placed upon him, and which Gilliman had exploited, he took it upon himself the burden of humanity's hopes again. Surrounded by his sanguinary guard and legionary banners, the angel walked along the outer walls. Wherever Sanguinius went, memories of sunless dawns were kindled. The people remembered better times, and hoped those times might yet return. The enforcers of each city block he passed reported a calming of mood, and a cessation of violence that lasted several days. His procession took him many days, passing several areas facing various siege camps at the Dark Mechanicum. But in time he found himself staring down the daylight wall. The repairs by Thane and his exemplars rough, but holding. Sanguinius strode up to his first captain, Ralderon. "We have been lucky thus far," said Sanguinius. "The walls are holding past Dawn's more optimistic estimates." He ran his gaze over the displays, away from the live feeds covering the siege camp. "The outer works, less so," he said, gesturing to the images of scarred, twisted lands where trenches, walls and men had been only a fortnight before. "The enemy continues to test our defenses. and taught us with their intent, said Sanguinius. This is a ritual. The palace is the epicenter. I imagine whatever they plan will be fueled by blood. All the blood angels present had been at Cygnus, and at Davin. They had witnessed the true horror of the warp, and its scars remained. The conscripts fight bravely, said Rauderon. They hang on, and repulse the enemy every time, though they dwindle in number daily, and I am forced to order the war guns activated more frequently to bombard compromised sections. I regret we cannot go to aid them ourselves. Lord Dawn forbade me from fighting outside the walls, said Sanguinius. He turned his sad, noble eyes to his equerry, but he did not forbid us to venture outside. Sanguinius paused. Let us go down, outside the wall. I want to go amongst them. I want to see the troops. I want to tell them their heroism is valued. Sanguinius saw the worry in his sons' faces. All the blood angels had a foreboding that their lord might leave them soon. They felt it in their hearts and in their humors. But Sanguinius knew he would not die today. A lucky few were given coats to starve off the cold. Katsuhiro was not amongst them. To begin with, he cut a hole in the middle of his blanket and wore it over his head as a poncho. He was never warm, even when the dead provided him with a padded jacket and trousers more suited to the climate. All were bloodied and covered in excrement and rotting flesh. He had ceased to care. The cold was a worse killer than the guns. Battle was an infrequent peril. The cold was persistent. Sometimes it rained a toxic slime of pollutants from the burning cities. When it stopped, it left behind a metallic stink. Those who dared to drink the rain perished. Some tried for lack of water. Thirst and hunger tormented them all. But after a time, some drank the water purposely in order to escape.
Oh God.
But for a moment, it all faded away. Katsuhiro had forgotten what purity looked like. But in Sanguinius he was reminded. Men and women fell to their knees as Sanguinius passed along the line. Fear ebbed. Filthy hands reached out to touch the Lord of Angels. His warriors moved to push the soldiers back, but Sanguinius raised his hand and the guards moved away. A female soldier was the first to dare to hold out her fingers to his wings. The feathers twitched, but Sanguinius stood firm and allowed her to caress him. Another person came forwards, then another, until the crowd was around the great angel, arms radiating inwards like worshippers from less enlightened times. Sanguinius was uncomfortable. Katsuhiro could see it, though he masked it well. Like all the rest, Katsuhiro was captivated and moved towards him, his feet dragging through the mud of their own volition. The angel's radiance touched Katsuhiro. He felt a peace in his heart, a calmness in his mind and a stilling of fears. The aches and chills that sickened him were alleviated briefly. For a moment, he felt whole again, and yet a hollowness filled him as the Primarch moved further on. It compounded within him how insignificant he was. This was a war of demigods. Sanguinius was still outside the wall when the bombardment ceased. They knew what this meant. My lord, Ascalon began. He waved forwards the sanguinary guard to shield the Primarch. We remain. My brother will need me, Sanguinius said, his voice still distant. Ascalon looked to Rauderon. What do you foresee, father? Rauderon asked quietly. A need for assistance. The White Scars come, said Sanguinius. A low buzzing grew. Chagorian war chants became louder, until they were a wall of sound. Sanguinius smiled as his brother roared by on an oversized jet cycle and tilted his stubby wings to salute. Mortals ducked, so close to the ground were the White Scars flying. Jagatai was ordered by Dawn not to attack, but he is the Khan of the Ordu of the White Scars Legion, the Warhawk of Chagoris, and one might as well attempt to chain the wind. The miles of distance was covered in mere moments, as the 5th Legion roared towards the Mechanicum camp. Sanguinius looked skywards calmly. The Death Guard were coming. I do not die today, Sanguinius roared to his sons, and if I do not aid my brother on his return, he will. I have seen it. My sword, my spear, man the ramparts alongside these brave warriors of the Imperium. His helm was brought and Sanguinius locked it in place. It is time at last for the 9th Legion to fight. Jagatai Khan's jet bike surged as a stream of white scars began to wrap around the traitor camp. Many fell as a wall of munitions cut down Jagatai's sons, but it would not stop them. Jagatai and his sons banked, roaring into the camp's rear and reaping through the horde of warrior servitors and mechanical guns. For the Emperor, he roared. For unity, for the Imperium. When the Tulwar struck the enemy, they exploded in showers of oily blood. Onwards, onwards, my Ordu. Death, death to the traitors, Jagatai called. His war cries broadcast over his legion's voxnet, and the Khan's answers were loud with laughter and jubilation. Too long that they skulked behind the walls. The wind had them, filling them with its rushing power and lifting them up with its strength. They tore through the mechanicum lines.
I see why
made
the
towards
joke for
shield
Rogel Dorn is
generators.
he's always like,
Generators
defend!
exploded in a shower of sparks as they thundered munitions into it. Sanja Chagoris, Jagatai voxed. Break free. Return to the walls. As suddenly as they attacked, the White Scars disengaged. Always the first in, the first to leave. The guns of the walls were now free to target and rip. The White Scars passed through a hail of ordnance heading out. Explosions boomed behind them, cutting off the fire that chased them. Jagatai revved his bike to full speed, towards the Blood Angels and mortal men, standing together on the trench line. He looked up, and thousands of sickly lights grew through the smoke. The Death Guard were coming. Katsuhiro rested his gun on the rampart's lip. The men were sheltered by fortification, in most cases only their heads exposed. The Blood Angels assembled side by side with Katsuhiro. Bolters raised as pods fell from the sky. Green sickly mist began to bulge forward towards them.
So this is
Katsuhiro glimpsed monstrous silhouettes within.
Stinky Guys
Ranakan was
Legion,
screaming
right?
something. More about Doromek, but Katsuhiro couldn't hear. Katsuhiro saw Sanguinius atop the wall, weathering the munitions as if they were nothing. His face still looked distant. Then he raised his spear and dropped. The angel spread his wings and dived towards the enemy, his lesser angels in his wake. Jagatai Khan's jet bike plunged down. Its golden prow plowed poison mist, then earth. The Khan leapt free at the point of impact. He rolled twice, using the momentum of the fall to launch himself back to his feet, where he skidded to a halt, Talwar poised to strike. He stood ready, every sense alert in the muffled battle zone. His warriors sped overhead. Interference crackled in his helm, his communications useless in the electromagnetic bombardment. Then they came for him. Attack is the best defense. So Jagatai Khan plunged towards the shape in the mists. Through his armor filters, Jagatai smelled the corruption upon Mortarian's sons. There was a sickness of flesh and soul. They fought slowly, but the doggedness that they were known for had been intense by the fall into darkness. And no matter how many he killed, they pressed at him without cease. His fury would have inspired 1,000 bards, had any been able to see it. The fogs made his fight a lonely struggle. Hidden from all knowledge, he faced the Death Guard alone. He was a god amongst men, but even sons of the Emperor tire. The first cut to break through his armor came after his 40th kill. A son of Mortarion lunged at the back of his knee, while he was engaging 4 in the front. The weapon he sought to slay a Primarch with was a simple combat knife, but perseverance pushed it through the armored ribbing of the joint seal. The Khan struck his assailant down, but he felt for the first time in his life a fever grow in his blood. His moves became sluggish as more Death Guard poured onto him, the prospect of killing a Primarch too tempting. Jagatai lashed under a mountain of bodies, unable to spare a moment to release the corrupted knife. He looked around at his brother's corrupted sons and wondered what awful pact had been agreed to make them so, and give them power to sicken a Primarch. Mortarion, what have you done? He shouted. I am Jagatai Khan. He roared, his final battle cry as death approached. I am Jagatai Khan. loyal son of the Emperor, and I have ridden well. More disease gauntlets swarmed in, trying to stab more seals and kill the Warhawk of Jagoris. Jet bikes cut through the gas. The air was filled with the sound of engines and Jagorian voices. The Khan, to the Khan, they cried. A warrior of the Ordu leapt from his steed, the speed of his fall turning him into a living ordnance that ploughed through the grimy ranks of Mortarian's brood. He was hacked apart as soon as he rose. But he had done his work. His Gene Father was free. The Khan erupted from the pile of Death Guard, his Talwar flaring again with the lightning of its energy field. This time he firmly grasped the night hilt sticking from his leg, and this time he wrenched it free. My Ordu, to me! Chogoris calls, ride to me!
Right,
he screamed, as sons answered their father's call. Sanguinius' voice sliced through the muffling fog, as if it were not there. My brother! To the aid of my brother! Katsuhiro snapped off shot after shot, leaving the traitor Marines to the attentions of the Blood Angels, as he downed mutants, sickly men and turncoat army soldiers. When the call went out, the Blood Angels looked out into the gas, following something that he could not see. They stood from the wall as one and leapt over the sloping rampart. Drive them back, roared their sergeants. Into them, for the Emperor, for Sanguinius. Caught up in their bloodlust, the conscripts rose alongside the Blood Angels and charged after them. Katsuhiro ran behind a Blood Angel, snapping off opportunistic shots and jabbing with his bayonet. Katsuhiro saw a line of Death Guard forming up ahead. Raised above them on a pile of corpses was a giant in white. Another Primarch. The Warhawk himself. Caged lightning that was too terrible to behold. He was joined by an angel that dived into the masses of bloated Marines. Arcs of tainted blood staining the Terran soil. The Blood Angels roared the name of their Primarch. Sanguinius! As they trampled over the Death Guard and mortal traitors. We must depart now, Sanguinius told his brother. They will return. Already the shelling was picking up pace around them. Not quite yet, my brother, said the Khan, pushing past his guardians. What are you doing? Yelled Sanguinius, but followed after the limping Khan. My jet bike. I must go to it and upload the images I gathered there. The haywire wiped my armor data cache. With this, we shall know our enemy better, and beat him all the more soundly. This is unwise, brother, Sanguinius shouted, losing off a blast from the spear of Telesto. Nothing in war is wise. Violence is not wisdom. Do you believe I went over the wall merely for glory? Said the Khan. It had crossed my mind you might be bored, said Sanguinius. Hold them back.
It's like, it occurred to me that you might be bored.
Snapping the data from the jet bike, a Thunderhawk roared in. Sanguinius dragged his limping brother up the rampart as the White Scars, Blood Angels and conscripts retreated back towards the third trench line. The Khan and the Angel looked at each other as the tainted knife in the Khan's hands evaporated as soon as they reached within the palace walls. The warp. Its malign influence was kept at bay by their father. They both knew it. Katsuhiro removed his gas mask upon Doramek's insistence. Thank the Emperor, said Katsuhiro. The Emperor protects. Doramek gave him a curious look. You're not one of them, are you? The worshippers? Said Katsuhiro. What? I just heard it somewhere. Well, said Doramek. The Emperor has nothing to do with this. Space Marines and blind chance save the day. They approached their line and found the body of Runican. Leave me alone, Katsuhiro whispered. Suit yourself, said Doramek. Katsuhiro watched until Doramek had gone. Then he examined the body. His heart raced as he saw Runican had been shot in the back.
Yeah, there's a traitor.
There's
a traitor. You kept saying there was a traitor.
It hit the ground, sending out a billow of flame that raced over traitor and loyalist alike. Father! Roared the giant. His furious, brazen voice was empowered by the violence.
Oh, Angron.
Thundering louder than any cannonade and audible over the racket of battle. I have come for you, The Nightfall was a prison designed to hold a Primarch, but no bars could hold back the Red Angel of Khorne. Surrounded by flames, Katsuhiro did not see Angron fall from the sky, but he heard his call, and he saw the things the fallen Primarch summoned. He was a creature of rippling crimson skin and leathery wings. It was rage incarnate, and Katsuhiro felt his blood boil with hate just at the sight of it. The World Eaters came loping from the fire with their chainswords, and set about their grisly work. They butchered men and women, hacking skulls from the dead and living alike. "Blood and skulls! Blood for the Blood God!" the giant howled. Katsuhiro and the surviving conscripts ran towards the walls, their lungs burning from exhaustion. Katsuhiro saw the desperate legionaries battle upon the walls, and knew he and all below were abandoned, meet to slow the raging death on their heels. Then, a miracle occurred. Multi-throated horns sang orchestral war cries, and the Helios Gate began to open. "Loyal men and women of the Imperium," a great amplified voice boomed from the gate. "Look now to your salvation. Make your way into the Emperor's protection. You have 3 minutes." Katsuhiro cried, and sprinted towards salvation. Chain teeth growled past Raldron's face. With a hair's breadth to spare, he leaned back and slashed down with his power sword, cutting the axe head from the World Eater's weapon. The traitor legionary slammed a fist into Raldron's face, knocking his helmet into his cheek. Raldron jammed his bolt pistol into the neck joint of his foe's armor and pulled the trigger, emptying the ammunition clip. The World Eaters were scaling the walls, reinforcing the few Night Lords left on the rampart. They fought with astounding savagery, with no thought for tactics or self-preservation. They were just berserk. "Finish them," Raldron voxed. "Get them off the walls." The Blood Angels and Imperial Fists desperately cut back, blood and gore multiplying. Raldron peered over the violence. The first siege tower was mere meters away.
So the Emperor came out of the building and was like, "Oh, I'm buying you 3 minutes." And it just sounds kind of like, I guess it sounds like they're winning. Because if the Emperor is joining, that would severely limit them in that front, wouldn't it?
The noxious gas and blood mixing in a pollutant tide. Raldron heard the thundering creak. Thane, he voxed. "The gates are opening. Angron is outside. Thane, on whose authority do the gates open? Are we betrayed?" There was a rush of air behind him, and the thump of boots upon the stone. He turned to see Sanguinius aloft on the wall, sword drawn in his left hand, the spear of Telesto in his right. "The gates open by my authority, Captain." Sanguinius strode to Raldron's side. "I will not abandon the human troopers to this vile death, while some might be saved. In them I see bravery, I see loyalty, but above all, I see faith in my father's vision. I shall not let them die, while there is blood in my body and strength in my limbs. Fear not, my son. I do not die today." "For the Emperor!" called Sanguinius, and led his sons into the fray. Katsuhiro rushed past the wall of amber armor, led by Captain Thane. Whistling bolts flew past his head, as the blood-crazed traitor legionaries were mere meters behind him. Katsuhiro turned to look towards the palace. To his amazement, a group of titans were advancing down the main road towards the Helios Gate. Green and red and white, they blew their war horns in outraged cries. They sang their war songs once again, and the largest spoke. "The Emperor protects," it said, and opened fire. Laz weaponry of a scale that dumbfounded Katsuhiro cast double spears of hard light at the enemy horde. They both hit the rampaging giant Angron, throwing him back and splashing into the horde of traitor troops. The enemy was streaming for the open gate, but were annihilated, and the survivors began retreating in disarray. The diseased siege camps clamped down. A bloated array of death guards surged, but they were slow, bloated by sickness, disabled by infirmities. The Blood Angels moved with a grace that their counterparts could not match, and found hard to counter. Just as much stinking blood was spilled as pure. Legionary Vitae stained everything, but the line held. Sanguinius leapt at one of the towers. He slew the Death Guard with such speed and power that all that came against him died. With blasts from his spear and the sweeps of his great sword, he ended their treachery once and for all. He leapt from the wall to the drawbridge, knocking as many foes from the edge as he slaughtered directly. Then, having cleared a space, he leapt. He beat his wings and then flew up. Sanguinius was captivated by the sight of his brave sons holding back the tide. Such pride stirred in him at their sacrifice, such sorrow that he would behold their valor only a few more times, before the final act of his life played out. He turned towards the thundering Titans, waving to signal the god machines. The Titans advanced outside the Helios gate, each step sending shockwaves through the ground as they turned. Giant las beams slammed into the siege towers. The corrupted constructs, though bigger than the Titans, burned through. Warp-infused bronze melting and exploding with hellish fire. Scalding fluid blasted out in...
So those big giant guys are like... Are they supposed to be like the Revenants? Or whatever, but bigger?
Every direction. And the towers shook, spilling the tiny figures of battling space marines from its broad ramp. Chained explosions raced up from its many floors, blasting flames from its firing slits and windows. Magazines caught, energy sources detonated. Radaron grabbed the standard from a dead banner bearer and waved it over his head. The tattered flag snapped beneath the winged blood-dropped finial. "To me, sons of Sanguinius, to me!" he called down from on high. Sanguinius, most perfect of all Primarchs, still hurtled into the middle of the Death Guard, and the Blood Angels roared as they began to push them back. Death Guard, Night Lords and World Eaters all plummeted towards their death. A dark shape grew suddenly from the sky. Angron was flying straight at them, but Sanguinius stood firm. His demonic brother was sent flying. The Emperor's wards were weakening, and soon the Neverborn would walk upon TERRA. But for now, even Angron could not enter the palace. "Sanguinius," growled Angron. "Face me, let us fight, you and I." "You shall not pass over these walls," said Sanguinius, "nor under or through them until our father decrees it. You know this to be true." Angron snarled. "Then come out and fight me, Red Angel to Red Angel, upon this field of battle where father can no longer interfere." Sanguinius simply saluted his brother, as if Angron remained the troubled warrior of before. "We will fight, my brother, but not today." Angron roared and wheeled around, for he must have seen the truth in the great angel's words. He did not make another attempt to pass over the wall, and flew back to the burning plains below, where the last of the unfortunate few of the outwork defenders were being hunted down. The battle was over. The ground rumbled.
Surrounded
And also,
by
I
the
will continue.
corrupted legions. Only a few legions were left to protect the fate of humanity.
Right, so
The
this one
Blood
has
Angels
2 minutes.
fought with unrivaled strength, outnumbered at every skirmish. They fought with the Emperor's might in their bones. The great angel took to the skies, unleashing his sword against the greater demon army. The Blood Angels fought with all they had, but it was still not enough to survive the onslaught. The traitor legions pushed through the lines, or entered the gates of the Imperial Palace, as Sanguinius sought to fight for us. The mighty demon lord, once slain by Sanguinius, returned, resurrected from the war. Rwanda met with Sanguinius at the gates of the Imperial Palace. The angel and demon dueled once more. they fought their way into the inner sanctum of the palace, battling their own war. The throne room door split open as Sanguinius's body flew motionless onto the throne steps, beaten and on the verge of death. As Kabanda stood over Sanguinius, prepared to deliver his killing blow, the angel summoned the last of his strength. With a mighty roar, he grappled with the demon lord, taking to the skies with his wings. He let out a roar that rippled through time. He dived back to the ground, holding the demon above his head, crushing the beast's spine upon his knee. Sanguinius swung the beast into the throne room doors. The monster was dead. The time for death was not now for the angel, for he had seen his demise. His fate was yet to be sealed.
And then 2 more, and then we're done, guys.
The angel and the demon meet in the air. The first impact of blade against blade is a metallic thundercrack, while their sons wage war below, fighting and dying in the shadows of their father's wings.
Oh, is this like a conceptual animation?
The Lord of the Red Sands swings, but the angel is gone, twisting away, soaring higher. Angron beats his wings, giving chase. Sanguinius dives low, swooping towards the ground, and Angron follows. Volkite beams stab up at them both, lancing the sky. They fly through detonations that blacken the angel's armor and darken his wings. Closer he comes. Closer. The angel veers away with a grace Angron cannot hope to match. A spread of feathered wings arrests his dive, and a slash of straight silver rips across the demon's face. He's blind, his face broken by the silver sword. His eyes regenerate as he thrashes blindly with his blade. He can see again, dull and dim for another few moments, then with a clarity that defeats the ash and the dust swirling in the air. The Lord of the Red Sands tears the angel from the sky, clutching his golden brother in his great claws, bearing Sanguinius down. They fall and fall and fall, and crash through the glaciaic dome of the Martian temple atop the warmonger titan Malax Meridius. They strike the floor in a roll that would break any mortal bones, their tumbling bodies obliterating the mosaic rendering of the Opus Machina, sacred icon of the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Martian Mechanicum alike. Angron gets a clawed hand around the angel's head. He beats Sanguinius' skull against the floor once, twice, thrice, and cracks web out along the tiles in stone-splitting veins. A 4th time, a 5th. There is weakness then.
Okay.
There is weakness, then. Angron's grip slackens. His arm dissolves. The Lord of the Red Sands is thrown back as the angel rises. In Sanguinius' hands is a pistol, and the dregs of Angron's sentience recognize this as the melter weapon Infernus, a one-use thing of incineration. The angel casts it aside and takes wing, diving right at the demon, leading with his sword. Metal grinds, sparks spray, arcing out from the meeting blades. Sanguinius impales him. The two brothers are face to face, one of them a visage of bloodied human perfection, the other a construct of absolute inhumanity, rage made manifest. Die, I free you from this torment. The demon is not dying. Sanguinius tears the blade free and leaps upward, taking to the sky. Bleeding, laughing, the demon follows. The Lord of the Red Sands beats his wings harder. They race low to the ground, hardly an arm's reach above the heads of their warring sons, fast enough that their armies are an indistinct blur. Angron swings the black blade. He gouges earth. He sends blood angels and world eaters tumbling across the ground, their bodies destroyed, their souls spilling into the warp's million waiting maws. Without warning, Sanguinius climbs, soars, Sanguinius weaves aside from the blinding slashes of las cannon
Was this
beams,
the fight
rolls
that they
away
have?
from the juddering passage of a Legion Stormbird. Angron, far less maneuverable, crashes into it, goes through it, tastes the flavor of those doomed souls as their craft comes apart around them. The billowing smoke cannot hide the light of the angel's soul. Angron is close. The demon gives a draconic roar. Angron's mouth is still open when the spear, hurled from the angel's left hand, strikes. Angron falls. Angron hits the Royal Ascension with cratering force at the heart of the two warriors.
From what I understand, it feels like Sanguinius is like the strongest of those currently in the palace.
Cratering force
He just
at
got
the heart of the two warring legions.
Constantly
His
fought,
impact
constantly,
kills almost
constantly.
100 warriors
They
on
wore him
both
down.
sides. The lance comes free, slick with ichor, pretending to be blood. Already the demon is reforming, reknitting. The angel descends with a silence that stinks of false righteousness, as though he were a creature too enlightened to feel rage. The brothers collide in the crater they made. Around them, the battle for the Eternity Gate rages. The World Eaters are coming. The World Eaters and the Life Takers and the Bloodletters. Sanguinius senses them draw near, hears their howling. Sanguinius hacks and hacks and hacks as the snarls of chain axes and demon blades grow louder. It isn't enough. The angel launches away, a crack of his wings carrying him upward. The Lord of the Red Sands knows he can't catch Sanguinius in the sky. He scrambles for the fallen spear. He throws the spear. It rips through the air with a concussive drumbeat, breaking the sound barrier. The angel rolls aside with the grace of the Skyborn, dodging this streak of bladed intent. Faster than the human eye can follow, the angel has caught his spear as it passed, rolled with the momentum, and now he casts it back to the ground with a cry of effort. And the force of a meteor hits him in the chest, throwing him down, pinning him to the warp-stained ground.
He just
For several
played on
unreal
Angron.
seconds, the Lord of the Red Sands is impaled in place, speared through the chest. He frees himself in time to see Sanguinius ascending, leaving him behind. His wounds close, but slower. Slower. Slower than before. The nails bite harder, despising his weakness. Angron turns his back on his brother, seeking the lesser blood angels in Legion Red. He wades through them, ending them, sending their bodies flying back with heaving swings of his soul-thirsty sword.
Angron literally took the, you're too strong for me, I'm just gonna kill your underlings. Last one, guys.
Slower than before. The nails bite harder, despising his weakness. Angron turns his back on his brother, seeking the lesser blood angels in Legion Red. He wades through them, ending them, sending their bones flying back with heaving swings of his soul.
Sorry if I'm not commenting very much. Most of this is me learning about Sanguinius. And so far I've learned that Sanguinius was him.
Thirsty sword. If he cannot catch the angel,
Fought Angron off, fought half his legion off. Fought off what was one of the high demons or whatever as well.
he will lure the angel back to him. He learned this from the Bane. It takes no time at all. Angron has scarcely begun to shed blood before he hears the descending beat of angelic wings. The Lord of the Red Sands wipes the writhing bodies of dying blood angels from where they're spitted upon his blade, and turns to meet his brother once more. Bolt shells impact against him. Chainswords carve into the unmeat of his legs. He ignores this. The pitiful defiance of his nephews with their bolters and chainswords. He will kill them and devour them and offer up their skulls to the Skull Throne. Yes, but now, first, the angel must die.
Like, quite literally, the only reason Angron's even able to keep up is he's constantly being healed. Like, he's been dead, like, twice over by Sanguinius.
Sword to sword. They're a blur to the mortals around them. So swift are the clashes of their blades that their swords sing a single extended note. A lasting ring without crescendo or diminuendo. It is beautiful. That ululating chime, a masterpiece of broken physics. But only one of them is immortal. Sanguinius, failed by mortal muscle, weakened by the war, begins to slow. His thrusts become deflections. His hacks shift to parries. He gives ground, at first by centimeters, then with greater steps. Through eyes tense with effort, he sees that he's being driven back towards the violated Eternity Gate. The Lord of the Red Sands sees it dawn on the angel's face. How the longer they fight, the weaker only one of them becomes. In the searing thresh that passes for Angron's mind.
Like, what's funny is the only reason I feel like
He knows it will come.
it's not even his fury, man. He's literally being carried by his regenerating, like, because he's basically the demon incarnate.
Any moment now.
He would have
when
lost like
desperation
3-4
will
times over
force
by
his
now.
brother's hand. Blades clash. They clash. They clash and clash and clash, and then Angron lets the silver sword run through him, taking it inside his demonic corpus as a sacrifice. He uses the blow, feeding off of the pain and craving the damage, because it...
Like, he couldn't do that if he didn't have the regeneration. He quite literally... It feels like he's weaker because of it.
It lets him get closer. Ooze bubbles through the cage of his teeth. The ectoplasm that animates him running from his body in a flow of lifeblood. But no matter. It's worth it. Taloned hand snaps around the angel's throat. The other thrusts forward with his blade.
What would be funny is if Sanguinius comes back. Because I feel like, that would be probably the biggest slap to Angron. The guy cheated and then he's still back?
With miserable slowness into his guts. His perfect features darken with pain. And the Lord of the Red Sands.
Wasn't Sanguinius one of the people that was nicer to Angron too?
Feeds on that sight. Feeds on the angel's baring of teeth. Feeds on the stink of Sanguinius's rich, running blood. The sensation is narcotic. Intoxicatingly pure. Even the god of war, in whose shadow Angron stands, bays with pleasure at the shedding of this being's blood. Angron's grip tightens on the angel's throat. He thrusts the blade deeper, growling at the fresh flow of blood that bursts from his brother's mouth. Sanguinius's mouth works, but at first, no words come forth. All he manages to breathe out is his brother's name. Brother. It is a struggle for Angron to speak, but a lifetime of bitterness is dredged with the agony in his brother's beautiful eyes. He sinks the blade deeper into the angel's body, hilting it in his brother's guts, and draws Sanguinius in until they are face to face. He's close enough to smell the blood on his brother's breath. He's close enough for it to spatter against his face. Angron. No sound in life has ever been sweeter than his flawless, beloved exemplar brother, hissing his name in strangulation. Angron's jaws are poorly shaped for human speech. But the Lord of the Red Sands forces the words from his maw.
The dying angel sings.
Sanguinius reaches for him with weak and clawless hands. It's pathetic. The performance of a weakling. The Lord of the Red Sands doesn't need to breathe. He cares nothing if his brother's hands find their way around his throat. But the sweetness is fading. The adrenal rush drains away. Is this truly how the angel dies? Is this all the fight Sanguinius has left in his celebrated form?
Angron.
Horus, the War Master, the coward, in orbit. The Lord of the Red Sands hears the voice break through his ecstatic haze, and senses Horus has been seeking to reach his blood-soaked mind for some time. There is derision in the War Master's presence. But above all, there is fear.
Release him! Release him! He is...
Sanguinius' reaching hands close on a fistful of the cranial cables that crown Angron's head. The angel grips the technological dreadlocks that form the external regulators of the butcher's nails, and the beast that Angron has become realizes too late. Much too late.
Oh, he's gonna pull him out.
The angel has played the same gambit, risking a blade, welcoming it to get close.
Kill him before...
The words cease to exist, replaced by pain. Real pain. A thing he thought he was incapable of experiencing, now stunning in its unfamiliar savagery. The Lord of the Red Sands gives a roar loud enough that the Sanctum's void shields shimmer where the mirages ripple. He tears his blade from his brother's body, grappling, hurling, but the angel remains. White wings batter at the demon's face and defeat the raking of his claws. He abandons his own blade to scratch and scrape at the angel. He tears away shards of golden armor. Wings bleed, feathers rain. Never once does Sanguinius make a sound. Angron cries out, a cry flavored by something other than rage for the first time since his exaltation.
Those probably
Agony
really
lightning
hurt to
bolts
pull.
through his head. Fire and ice, ice and fire, a sensation he no longer has the mind to understand, but that will destroy him, whether he understands it or not. He launches upwards, beating his ungainly wings, striving for the sky, turning and tumbling, seeking to dislodge the straining angel. On the battlefield below, the legions duel in the rain of their Primarch's blood. The Lord of the Red Sands, Angron. I remember now. I am Angron. Feels his skull creaking, stretching. Then a crack. A crack that paints the back of his eyes with acid. It's the cracking of a slowly breaking window. The crack of a skull under a tank's treads. He hears his brother now. Sanguinius's ragged hisses of breath coming in time to the scrape of his gauntlet against the pain engine's mechanical tendrils. Their eyes meet, and there is no mercy in the angel's pale gaze. Sanguinius is lost to the passions he has always resisted, The Lord of the Red Sands sees it in the pinpricks of his brother's pupils, in the ivory grind of his brother's fangs. The angel has lost himself to blood need, and veins show starkly blue on his cheeks. This is wrath. This is the angel unleashed. It is an anger so absolute, Angron feels the bite of another forgotten emotion.
Here?
Jealousy.
Jealousy?
What he sees in the angel's eyes is no bitter fury at a life of mistreatment, or rage goaded by the will of a god that only rewards slaughter. It feeds the god of war, as all bloodshed does, but it is not born of him. It is the angel's own fury, in worship of nothing but justice. How beautiful that is. How naive. How pure. This is the demon's last cohesive thought. Fueled by animal panic as much as sentient rage, Angron's frantic clawing does nothing to throw Sanguinius clear. The brothers fall together, the demon's strength lost to convulsive thrashing, the angel's ripped and blood-stained wings unable to keep them both aloft. The dreadlock cables are fastened deep in the meat of the monster's mind. They are not attached to the brain, they are part of it, tendriling their way through the pain engine that replaced and so poorly simulated entire sections of the 12th Primarch cerebellum, thalamus, and hypothalamus. The butcher's nails are woven throughout his brainstem, hammered in to bind them to the spinal column and central nervous system. It is a process almost admirable in its barbaric effectiveness, one reproduced with malignant perfection in his exaltation from a mortal to an immortal. From behind the veil, Angron hears laughter, a god laughing at him, because it cares not from whence the blood flows. The death of the Lord of the Red Sands is as pleasing to this divinity as the death of any other champion. Warp fire flares from the cracks in the beast's deforming skull. The cracks become crunches, each one a conflagration that sweeps from the filaments behind Angron's eyes to the spikes of his spine. There is the feeling of violation, a deep and slick wrongness as something is taken from him, pulled from the root of his mind. He screams then, and he does something he has never done in neither his mortal nor immortal lives. His roar of pained rage is colored by a sound so shameful he will spend the rest of eternity refusing to believe it happened. The sound is a word, and the word is a plea. He begs.
No!
The beast grunts to his brother. This moment will never enter the legends of either legion. The Primarchs are high above the battlefield, and the few sons able to watch their fathers are too far away to know what passes between them. Only Sanguinius hears Angron's last word, and it is an intimacy he will take to his grave. The ground rises with disorienting speed. It's now or never. As they freefall together, the angel gives a final, wrenching pull of the serpents of barbarian metal. The demon's head
He just
bursts.
rips him out.
It's a detonation, a release of internal pressure like pus from a squeezed cyst. The lion's share of Angron's brain comes free in a spray of fire and acid blood. The demon's wings beat once more. Just a shiver, a thing of reflex. His claws slacken. All struggles cease.
Fatality. So he killed the like super demon twice. He killed Angron. He held off like legions. And Horus like waited until all those other people were defeated before he even just attempted to come down. I kind of get why Angron calls him a coward. Oh, and he took out an Imperator Titan. That was an evil Titan, right?